The Apostle Paul wrote in Ephesians 3:14 this: "For this reason I kneel before the Father, from whom every family in heaven and on earth derives its name. And I pray that out of his glorious riches he may strengthen you with power through his Spirit in your inner being." Today, I want to continue our talk about knees. This past Monday, we hosted, NHOP, National House of Prayer, hosted an event in our city, a prayer vigil for Charlie Kirk. We had many members of Parliament, staffers, Senate staff, Parliamentary staff, even the American ambassador, Pete Hoekstra, joined us. It was an amazing evening. And we were able to preach the gospel all night long. It's about 2 hours. 2 hours of exhorting the Lord. And I want to tell you something. There were many unchurched, non-believing people at our event. Even a friend of mine, an Orthodox Jewish woman, a dear friend, was there. And her response, that it was moving and powerful, and she appreciated the fervor in which we prayed. And so it was a great night. But I want to just look at this. We're going to go back to knees. Last week I talked to you about it's about knees, not about elbows. And we've been hearing all week long still about elbows. But I believe God is calling us as the people of Canada. You know, many times we've heard words that Canada is to be the leaves of healing to the nations. We've heard that many times. But in order to have this posture for healing, we need to be humble. Humility. If my people which are called by my name will humble themselves and pray. Again, a reference to knees. It's important that we have this. It was so good that we were able to connect with the ambassador. In fact, let me tell you an amazing story. MP Richard Bragdon, a member from New Brunswick, he chairs the National Prayer Breakfast, was there. And he shared this from Job chapter 42, verse 10. And it said this, I'm going to go paraphrase, but it said this: when Job prayed for his friends / accusers, because that's what they were. Who needs friends like that? But Job did it. He didn't whine and he didn't complain. But when he prayed for his friends, God was able to restore that what was broken and taken away. When he prayed for his friends, he was able to do this. Jesus says this, you know, in Matthew, and I've said this often, but I'm going to say it again. Someone said to Jesus, "What is the greatest command?" And you know this. And it comes from the Shema. And it's love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength. And the second greatest commandment is to love your neighbor as yourself. And we were able to extend in that meeting love to a neighbor. And many say, well, who's our neighbor? I've actually heard people say, oh, that really refers to just Christians like us. That's who we're supposed to love. It's about brothers, which is good, but it's not hard to love brothers. Well, sometimes it is. But anyway, but it isn't, because Jesus says, somebody asked, who's our neighbor? And Jesus says, and tells us the story of the Samaritan, the good Samaritan, and how he went out of his way. I was in Samaria just a little while ago. He went out of his way to care for somebody that he shouldn't have cared for, that most people would have said no. In fact, the religious people, the rich people today, let that person just stay there. But it was the good Samaritan that did his job by loving his neighbor as himself. So we're called to be a people that are humble, a people that pray, and a people to be on our knees. I like to think of this, another reference to knees, is when we think of Jesus washing the feet of his disciples. It was a posture of knees. I looked in the scriptures to find if it actually said Jesus knelt down and did this, and it doesn't say that. But in every foot washing ceremony that I've been in my life, there was always a posture of kneeling for those that are washing and being low, coming low, taking the low road. And so it was wonderful for us in this meeting, in the honor, like we're going to go back a little bit to Charlie Kirk. One of the things that we appreciate about Charlie Kirk was his ability to have a dialogue and create dialogue between people that normally wouldn't talk to each other. And he modeled that very well as his propensity to preach the gospel. He was not ashamed of the gospel and presented it all the time, everywhere. Like I said, in this meeting last Monday, we were able to preach the gospel. We gave an altar call. People came to Jesus. And one of the things that was so important about this was that posture of honor, where we were able to honor our neighbor, the ambassador, and as a result, we, both nations, because we had members of parliament there, we had the American ambassador, we were to be able to go before God representing both nations and call on God for the harvest, because that's what it's all about. It's about the harvest. And that's why we did this. So I want to encourage you. Be humble. Ask the Lord how you can be those healing to the nations. That healer, that peacemaker, that shalom maker. James says this: those who sow in shalom will reap a harvest of righteousness. I'm Chris Byberg, the director of the National House of Prayer, and we will see you next time.